I'm not flexible. I don't have the body for it. I cannot do handstands. Are you familiar with these expressions? It is quite common to hear these and many other reasons for not practicing yoga. But yoga is indeed for everyone because no matter what or how, yoga is mainly what we do off the mat. This is Decoding Yoga and I'm Eli Aguilar, and today we will talk about the most common reasons or excuses, I will say, why people don't practice yoga and why none of them are true. So let me get into these reasons that I not only heard from my students that come to Sampoornayoga to do the yoga teacher training courses, but also from their students. Once they start teaching, they face with these reasons, with these excuses, with the justifications. So let's hear the top 10 reasons. There are many reasons out there, but I try to choose the most common ones, the ones that, as I said, the students come over and over and again and ask or say, or they used to say before they realize what yoga really is. So let's get into business right now because we have to discuss 10 reasons. So number one, and I will say this is actually the number one reason why people don't practice yoga. I'm not flexible. Wow, if I had a penny for every time I hear this excuse, I would be rich, believe me. Well, but guess what? There are days that I cannot touch my toes either. There are some poses that I cannot practice in the full expression of the pose, and that is okay. Because at the end of the story, yoga is not only about asanas, and you will hear me saying that over and over again. And if we're talking about postures or asanas, we can modify them. At the end of the story, it's more important to be flexible in the mind and to be open to learn new things, to be willing to learn new things and to practice them instead of folding forward and reaching for your toes. If you do that, awesome. But that shouldn't be the main aim of the postures. It is important what you learn when you're practicing the pose, what the pose is giving you, because what happens on the mat is usually a reflection of what happens or what we feel or what we think off the mat. So definitely, if we are not flexible, I would say that should be the reason number one to come and practice yoga. Let's see number two. I'm not religious or spiritual. This is quite common, and I will say this is from all the excuses and all the reasons when students come to India to do the yoga teacher training course. Usually we hear this a lot because we are in India. We chant in majority of the classes. A lot of words are in Sanskrit. There are a lot of ohms and mantras in a language that majority of us don't understand, and people relate this to a religion. So in upcoming episodes, we are going to be talking about Actually, we already talked about what yoga is, and we were talking about if yoga was a religion, and we already learned that yoga is not a religion. So yoga is a philosophy of life, and yes, it is a method with its own techniques and principles that aims for a spiritual growth, because we are called to be the better human being we can be, and then to be helpful and to serve others. This is what we came to this world for. So some of us choose yoga as that method to work every day and become a better human being. But I will say that spirituality is a very personal, private practice, and everybody experiences it in a different way. So don't worry, You don't have to chant. You don't have to do the ohms. Sanskrit is just a language that it was the language that a lot of the philosophy was written in, but it has nothing to do with religion. You will see statues, you will hear these mantras in your yoga classes, but also that depends on the teacher. I personally, because the main subject that I teach is anatomy and adjustments, and I teach a lot of the technical aspects of teaching yoga. I don't chant in my classes, and I consider myself a very spiritual person, but I live my spirituality in private. So don't worry, it's not a religion. You don't have to be religious. You don't have to think, to believe in anything to practice yoga. Reason number 3, I don't understand the different styles of yoga. And I will say, actually, you may not even know that there are different styles of practicing asanas. In the same way, I have mentioned before that I'm a psychologist. So one of the things that I heard or I hear very often is the psychotherapy doesn't work. Well, there are a lot of reasons why people say that, but one of them is that when people go to therapy, they don't connect, or they don't resonate with the psychologist that is providing therapy. But one of the things that I always ask people when they tell me these things is, do you ask your psychologist what school of thought that he follows? And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, it's not the same if you follow the Freud stream of thought, or if you are more behavioral or cognitive. So there are so many schools of thoughts in psychology that you need to find a psychologist that speaks the language that resonates with you, and then you can start therapy with that person. But the same goes for yoga, especially when it comes to the physical practice. I'm talking about ways of practicing the asanas. That, by the way, that is the topic for the next episode, when I'm going to be talking about different styles of yoga, different styles of practicing the asanas. So my suggestion here is, 1, do a little research, read about the different styles of yoga, and try a few classes with different teachers. See the different rhythm, the different pace, the different breathing exercises that you have to practice, the flow in between postures, if it's the same sequence all the time or they change, the pace, how long you hold the poses, and so on. That will give you an idea of what resonates with you. And also remember that we change. I remember when I started my personal practice, I started it with one style. And today my style of practice is a different one, because what I needed back then was very different of what I need today. But I will talk more about that in the next episode. So reason number 4, let's move forward with this. I don't have time. Guess what? Nobody has. We always complain about not having time. But we have to make time, especially when it comes to health, because it's better to take 20, 30 minutes every day to practice something, to do something that is going to accumulate in time and make us stronger and healthier, than then suffer from a condition or a disease, right? So when it comes to the physical practice of yoga, it's better to practice 20 minutes a day than 0 minutes a day or 1 hour per week. And also, I'm going to keep highlighting this because yoga is what we do off the mat. Yoga is how we live. We can actually apply the principles in our daily habits. Pay attention of how mindfully you eat. Are you eating in front of a screen or with your phone, or you are actually paying attention to what you're doing? Breathe consciously. Pay attention if your breath stays on your chest or you actually moving the air all the way down to your belly. Are you paying attention to the person that is talking to you, like really mindfully being present? Don't harm anyone or anything. Practice the the first principle of yoga, which is ahimsa, that we will discuss more in depth in the yoga philosophy episodes that we have in the future. But let's make the time, just 20-30 minutes every day for the physical practice, and apply the principles in your daily life, and that will do. Reason number 5, yoga is for girls. I have listened to this so many times. But interesting enough, the greatest, biggest masters of yoga, especially the ones coming from India, are men. The yoga gurus, when it comes to the yoga philosophy, and the teachers and the ones that have created the systems of the physical practice, are men. So when did we start thinking that yoga is not only for women, but for young women, for fit women? And I do believe that this is because when we start creating all these misconceptions and all these misunderstanding of what your yoga really is, social media came into play, all this competition and all these people showing off, and all these complicated, complex poses with the people who are naturally or have developed a lot of elasticity and flexibility are performing in social media. So all that thinking also that yoga is only a physical exercise, that you need to be flexible to do yoga, or the yoga is way too easy. All that combined, somehow people, I guess, unconsciously have thought like, okay, only young, fit, skinny girls can do those things. And that is far from true, okay? If you have a body and a mind and a soul, you can practice yoga. If not, look at all the athletes in the world that practice yoga. Men practicing yoga. Performance in sports increase tremendously when we practice yoga. So let's move on with reason number 6. Yoga, I like this one because I usually they look like, you don't look like a yogi. I'm like, okay, I just wonder why people say that. Is because people think or say that yoga is for hippies. I'm not into crystals, essential oils, flip-flops, and I'm afraid I will have to change my name to a Sanskrit name. Well, definitely I don't fit into this description. If you want to do all these things, please be happy and do them. And I love a lot of all these things, but yoga has become my life, and I haven't changed my name. And I do use some essential oils for the medical aspect of it, but not because I have to. If you don't like it, if you don't believe in those things, please don't. Yoga is about being true to yourself. So they are not rituals that you have to do. That for me always is like a public show, like a public performance. Again, everything that you do for your spirituality, for your health, for to be a better human being should be private, okay? So don't worry, you don't have to change your name or use flip-flops. I don't, right? You can be a great practitioner and even a great yoga teacher without doing all these things. Again, if you like it, please be happy and do it. But you don't have to change who you are in order to practice yoga. Yoga is a way to become a better you. That's it. You, whatever you are, just a better you, a better version. Number 7, I don't have the yoga body. Actually, a teacher told me that when I started practicing yoga. Maybe you don't have the yoga body. And believe me, I just wonder, like, what does he mean? Like, where do I get one of those? Where do I buy one of those bodies? Because this is the body I have. That's it. I don't know anything else. Some people think that they have to lose weight before they do yoga. They have to be shorter, smaller, longer. I don't know. All these weird ideas, especially because I teach the anatomy part. I hear like, oh, my knees are wrong, or my arms are too short, or my legs this. I'm like, honey, your body is perfect just the way it is. And we are all wired differently from each other. But at the end of the story, again, if you have a body, you can practice yoga. If you have a mind and a soul, you can practice yoga because yoga is a lifestyle. So please erase that from your mind that there is a yoga body or you have to look in certain way in order to practice yoga. Reason number 8, I'm bad at meditating. Well, surprise, surprise, I guess we're all bad at meditating because meditating is not something that we do. It's not something that you're like, okay, let me close my eyes and now I'm going to meditate. I'm going to put my mind in blank and all the thoughts will disappear. That is brain damage. You don't want your thoughts to disappear. Okay? Neurons communicate with each other with electricity all the time. Meditating is a state of your mind, and hopefully this is something that we all have to train because it doesn't come naturally to tell our brain, okay, now that we are in this wave of consciousness, that being here, present, listening to these words, we want to actually bring that state to a lower wave, a lower frequency, without falling asleep. That's the art. That's meditating. When we reach that state when you are not completely awake, but you are not fully asleep. Because in that state is when we actually become an observer. Once I read, and I always repeat this in my courses, I wish this quote was mine, but it's not. Praying is talking to God. Meditating is listening to God. And we all need to hear these answers, these responses to our questions. So if you're bad at it, welcome to the club. We have to practice it. That's the only way that you can master something, practicing. And yoga actually help us to calm down the nervous system and hopefully achieve that meditative state. Reason number 9, yoga is hard and you can get injured. As an anatomy teacher, I get this a lot. Again, as I said before, social media, competition, showing off, thinking that an advanced practitioner is only the one that performs very weird, complicated poses, are only some of the reasons why people may think that yoga is way too challenging or that it can be dangerous. Yoga is supposed to be challenging in the sense that it's going to challenge our mind to adapt to new principles, to be a better human being. Just try to live without violence for one day. Violence to yourself, the things that you think, that you say to yourself and to others. Just practice the principles. We will talk about the principles of yoga when we discuss about the 8 limbs of yoga. That is challenging, believe me. Poses, we can modify. But yeah, the body also needs to be challenged in order to improve. So, but again, we start from 0, right? So we learn slowly how to advance in our practice, advance in our mind and our understanding of the world and ourselves. And reason number 10, I don't know how to do it. And I would say, in majority of the cases, the emotion behind this excuse is fear. We are afraid of the unknown. But yoga is like everything that we have learned in life. At the beginning, it may feel awkward, but the only way to create a habit is to repeat it. So we need to practice it every day. And the more we practice it, the more comfortable we will feel with it. And I would say that this is one of the main reasons why people come to Sampoornayoga to do the teacher training courses, not necessarily because they want to become yoga teachers. Believe me, a lot of people come to 200-hour yoga teacher training to learn, to really know what is it, and to be able to apply this to their own life. So I can keep talking here about the reasons why people don't practice yoga, but I said, as I said at the beginning, I think these are the top 10, and I hope that now you know that they are not true. You can actually start practicing yoga and acquiring the habit of being more conscious about your life. Anyway, this was Decoding Yoga. I'm very happy that you listened to this episode. And next episode, I'm going to be talking about different ways of practicing asana, so you can choose the one that resonates with you. Take care and talk to you soon.